On today's show, the Phoenix Suns defeat the New York Knicks once again, despite some shooting woes from Devin Booker. When can we expect him to get back on track, or will he ever? And are the Suns just outright the most fun team to watch in basketball? Let's talk about that and much more in this edition of Locked On Phoenix Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. My name is Benjamin Garcia, host of the Ben Garcia Show, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, where we talk all things Arizona sports, and a credentialed Phoenix Suns media member covering your Phoenix Suns 365 days out of the calendar year for the number one sports podcast network in the world, the Locked On Podcast Network. Wherever you may be listening, viewing, consuming Locked On Phoenix Suns, we appreciate you doing so, making myself and this show a part of your day. Remember, Locked On Phoenix Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Click that follow or subscribe button to do what thousands of Suns fans have already done. Become an everyday and get Locked On the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Joining me on today's show, managing editor of Bright Side of the Sun, overall good dude, my guy, John Voita. How are you, man? You haven't been here in a couple of weeks. So for people that don't know, I'm not going to let him speak just yet because it's my show, not his show. But for people that don't know, John was doing shows I was like, hey, man, you want to come on? He's like, I don't know, man. My back is really jacked up. And for someone like myself who's got really bad back problems, my back hurts today. Like, I get it. Sometimes you just can't do it. And he doesn't want to do double duty. That's fine. But he was doing shows from his back, I think, on his couch.
In my bed.
I was like, dude, just take the day off.
In my bed, bro. In my bed. That's how dedicated to the Suns I am.
What did you do?
I'm 43 years old, and I think
a lot of people are shocked by that, by the way. I don't think people know that.
Well, it's because I still don't have a ton of gray in my beard. I'm blessed. I went bald early, but I didn't gray early. I've got buddies just, they look like Santa Claus. I'm like, hey, at least I got that going for me, which is nice. But I literally moving some furniture. I moved a TV and a hutch in my living room, and I twisted just a little funny. And I was like, I have a history of lower back issues, sciatic issues, bulging disc, all that fun stuff. And it happened, and I locked up, and talk about locked on. I was locked up for about 2.5 weeks. I'm finally feeling some better now. I'm standing while we do this podcast because sitting still for a prolonged period of time, it locks me up all over again. But yeah, dedicated to the cause, man. And it feels good to be back on Locked On. It's been quite some time. We had the holidays. I messed my back up, but I am locked on and locked in to talk about the Phoenix Suns, buddy.
Whenever you say, my back hurt, there was the holidays, our pets' heads are falling off. That's the only thing that I go to from Dumb and Dumber every single time. It's so funny. For the younger audience listening to the show, people don't understand, but the older you get, the less cool your injuries become. I throw out my back once a month bending over to tie my shoes. It's a terrible way of life. With that being said, a good way of life is the Suns beat the New York Knicks once again. And my big takeaway from the Suns beating the Knicks the first time was I thought the Suns got a little not lucky, because they like, this team really does make their own luck, but a little fortunate in some aspects, because they were out rebounded again. They were destroyed on the offensive boards. There was one statistic where I think they had like 5 offensive boards in one sitting in that first New York Knicks game. The Knicks couldn't hit shots when it mattered most. The Suns last night, the Knicks scored 16 straight points in the third quarter. I didn't think there was any chance the Suns were going to come back and win this game. I was periodically checking up on it on the ESPN app. It wasn't until this morning on Sunday where I actually had to go back and rewatch the game. I gave myself the day off. And I got to tell you, man, I've got two big takeaways from this game. And I'll leave the second one because it's more fandom to the side. I don't really like doing that. People know of my skepticism of Jalen Green, which regardless of what people say, I think is very valid. But what I will say is, I'm growing less and less concerned about Jalen Green's fit in the Suns offense as the games go by, because I don't know if this team is ever going to have a player that is going to feature Jalen Green, who is going to even have the chance to put up as many shots a night as I think he would try to put up with the Houston Rockets. They move the ball so effectively. They slash to the basket so effectively. That's this version of the Suns team. And again, Grayson Allen is having a good year. Colin Gillespie's having a good year. Jordan Goodwin, Jamari Bouye. Everyone's having
Royce
Ryan
O'Neal.
Dunn is shooting the ball more effectively recently. Royce O'Neal. It's hard for me to think now that I'm not going to eat some crow on some of my Jalen Green stuff, which is fine. That I think actually he might just be a perfect fit in the Suns offense, especially if they can really feature him as a slasher.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that's where you come in. That's where you come in. I missed a button here on this side, but anyways, that's where you come in.
Okay. Well, here's what I'll say about the Knicks games. Now, it's important to understand that entering this game, the New York Knicks had the third best offensive rating in the NBA. That entering this game, the New York Knicks had the third best shooting percentage from beyond the arc in this game. And when that run happened, it happened because the New York Knicks are a good offensive team and a team that can shoot the three ball well. And they were taking threes, but the Suns, even in their defensive deficiency during that time frame, was forcing the Knicks to shoot deep threes. These were 28, 29 footers that we saw them shoot. So I applaud their effort for pushing them out that far, and kudos to the Knicks for hitting those shots. But the way that the Suns responded is what ultimately turned the tide in this game. And it was the second team. It was the bench mob that came into this game with the balanced offense that you mentioned, Ben, combined with their ability to hit shots, with Grayson Allen leading the charge and cutting and doing what he needs to do. And I think that when you talk about the potential return of Jalen Green, and our hope is, and our fingers are crossed, that we see him this upcoming week, right? Because I feel like for the past 2 weeks now, we've been singing over and over in our head that Richard Marx song where it's like, wherever you go, whatever you do, I will be right here waiting for you, because we're waiting for him to come back. And even if our heart breaks, right, even if whatever it takes or how my heart breaks, I'll be right here waiting for you. And that's been the big question is because this season ultimately was supposed to be an evaluation season of Jalen Green. What is he in this NBA? Who is he when he steps away from the Houston Rockets, plays with a new team, potentially has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because despite being leading scorer on a team that was the second seed in the Western Conference, and after an unfortunate run in the postseason, the team told him that they were going to stand by him, and whoop, he gets traded to Phoenix, right? So we want to know who and what he is. But to your point, and I completely agree with you, Ben, the way that this team is structured, it's not structured to feature one person's shot diet exclusively. It's designed to move the ball. It's got a little bit of Bud ball to it, right? Play chaos, play unorganized, like Bud used to say. And even I know it's a very small sample size, but if you take a look at when Jalen Green played with the Suns, 2 months ago now, he didn't get a ton of shots. He ended up shooting, I think, like 20 shots, maybe in one of the games. But ultimately, that number is going to come down because this team moves the ball. He's going to provide that slashing option that's going to open up the shooters around him, and this team potentially could be successful. And that's what another thing that we're all waiting for as we wait for Jalen Green is how is he going to affect the chemistry of this team, the offensive flow. But I think that given the fact that he's been sitting there looking at the film, being coached by Jordan Ott, I think that he's going to fall in line with the rest of the other players. Because if you take a look at this bench squad, right, the team and the players that brought us back against the Knicks last night, these are a bunch of players who were on the team last year. Grayson Allen was on the team last year. Royce O'Neal was on the team last year. Colin Gillespie was on the team last year. And it's not that they're better this season because of development. They're better because they're well coached and they buy into the system. And the hope is that's what occurs when Jalen Green returns. That's where you come in.
Well, we're going to build off of this point in the Devin Booker shooting woes, because I think there is part of it that plays a role in some of that. Maybe we'll get to that in just a second, but it just kind of really hit me when I was watching it this morning, especially with the way the Suns were getting to the basket, passing the ball. A guy like Osu Ighodaro, who I absolutely hated for about half the season and has really, I think, taken a clear step in his game over the past couple of weeks. Here's the other thing that really pissed me off from last night's game. Here's my second take, and it's a fan take, and I don't really love these takes, but the Suns feel like the best watch in the NBA. I get texts from other Locked On hosts that say, God, I love watching the Suns. And depending if they're winning or losing, I say I like watching them or I hate watching them because they're probably losing at that point in the game, which is just funny. But Because last night when I was watching it, and I heard Mike Breen say this on the broadcast, it was, well, there's definitely going to be some soul searching done for the Knicks. Well, it's early on in the season. These are things that they need to fix. And I'm like, why are we still treating the Suns like they're just this fun and frisky team when maybe they're just better than you? Like maybe I know it's a hard concept to grasp because there's no KD. It's a little funky this year. It's a bunch of role players, and people outside of watching the Suns can't believe that they're playing so well. But like this will lead into something I'm going to say in the third segment. But like, I don't think it's crazy to say that this team could win a playoff series, but people are still treating them as if, oh, they're just that fun team, and you got to take them kind of seriously when you play them.
I think when
by the way,
watch
just really quickly, the Knicks were also 16-4 at home, going into last night's game. Five teams from what I know have beaten the Knicks at home. The Suns did that. Good teams do that.
I think what you're seeing with the Phoenix Suns, and we're experiencing it night in and night out, is one, we're exceeding expectations easily, right? There's no doubt about it. A team that's over-under was 31.5, dropped to 30.5 before the season even started, already has 25 wins in their pocket. And so if you're an opposing team and you're watching the Suns play, you have an appreciation for that team and who the Suns are. A team that's over exceeding expectations, a team that plays defensively, a team that communicates, that has the camaraderie. And so when you play them, and I was watching the Breen broadcast as well, right? I wasn't watching the local guys this round. I was watching the NBA TV because I wanted to.
I love watching Breen.
I love watching Breen. I do. And I love always hearing a different perspective on a game, as long as it's a local perspective versus a national perspective, because the national perspective, they're too agenda driven. Whereas I feel like if you get Breen, who does the local, MSG broadcast, you're going to get a fan's point of view. And to your point, Ben, that's what he was kind of saying, is like, there's going to be some soul searching. You know why? Because when you play the Suns and you see the way that they operate as a cohesive unit, a team that just doesn't stop, they're like the Terminator, nonstop coming after you. You look inward and go, God, why can't we be more like those guys? And to your point, I think, at least from a national media perspective, the Suns do get a lot of the flowers. Zach Lowe, Bill Simmons, Ryan Russillo, the guys that I listen to regularly, are constantly and consistently recognizing what Phoenix is and recognizing that it's real. Now, are they giving them credit relative to potentially winning a playoff series? No, not at this time, because I don't think those conversations are really occurring yet. And when you have a team like the Thunder out there, who is definitely fallible. The Suns beat them. They lost last night to the Miami Heat. They're still dominating the conversation as the defending champs, and rightfully so. So I love it because the Suns are kind of in this perfect world where the expectations are being exceeded. They're still not necessarily getting the credit. And as a fan, from a fanalist point of view, I'd rather have it, we're the team that kind of comes in, you've heard about us, and then we punch you in the face and you're like, whoa, what was that? We need to be more like those guys. Because how many times over the last 2 years have we played opposing teams like, man, we need to be more like those guys. This year, Ben, we are those guys.
Let's talk about Devin Booker and some of his shooting woes, because I overreacted to John Voita last night. Just looking at, and this was just looking at the box score. I hadn't even watched the game yet. I'd kept tabs on the game, but I had been watching it. And I want to talk about Devin Booker's shooting woes, and let's do it next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better every Friday night before the game tips off. FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame and limited time window where the special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app right before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing from NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Today's show is also brought to you by our Everydayer Club. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here of the day. And thank you for making Locked On Sports Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network if you in the world. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. It's access to an ad-free audio version of Locked On Suns compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. It's an invite to the members-only Locked On Suns group chat. It's an everydayer club Discord server, which also features chats from national topics on all other Locked On shows. Exclusive access to National Bonus Show. It's a members-only Locked On Suns or Locked On merch store with exclusive gear, a 60% discount on any additional Everydayer Club member level subscriptions, because it's hard to just pick one team. Make sure you guys go check that out as well. Appreciate you making Locked On Suns your first listen each and every day. Okay, so let's talk about Devin Booker really quickly, John. So I texted you last night that I was starting to grow really concerned with Devin Booker. I think we're 42 games into the season now. We are literally more than halfway into the season, and Booker is still shooting really poorly. Last night he was 10 for 23. What I will say about Devin Booker, and that's actually not right. Devin Booker, don't know why I had the Suns' other one up, but last night Devin Booker shot 7 for 18 from the field. It did feel like most of his shots were big. He's still, not shooting very well from three. He was 1 for 5 last night from three. It's hard with Booker because I will agree with you, which we talked about last night over text. He's been a really good playmaker for other people. He's been a really good defender this year, I think, especially in terms of just watching him around Brooks, Dunn, and even Mark Williams, who's been a pretty good rim defender this year. But the Suns aren't paying him $75 million to do all that other stuff without also being a more efficient shot maker. And he's shooting his worst field goal percentage since his fourth year in the league. He's shooting his worst three-point percentage ever since he's been in the NBA. What is your take on the Devin Booker thing, and why should I not be as concerned?
So I wouldn't be concerned because he's playing winning basketball. And I know that the inefficiency sometimes tarnishes his personal accolades, but he's leading this team. And that has value to me. Now, granted, I get what people are concerned about. 75 million, they say that number. He's at 53-1 this year. 75 isn't, 4 seasons away. And again, it's going to end up being the same percentage of the total cap by the time it occurs. But the reason I'm not concerned, and I spoke to you a little bit about this, is one, again, and the primary thing here is the way that he's playing basketball is contributing to winning right now. And I know in a perfect world, we want hyper-efficient Booker plus winning basketball equals what he should ultimately be. But in the same breath, I'd much rather have a version of Booker that contributes to winning versus being hyper-efficient because we're winning basketball games. And you look at like last year, he was much more efficient, but he was also kind of going through the motions. And I think the game against the Heat is a great example of this, where he sprains his ankle in that game. And I don't know if he comes back last season. I think he shows back up on the bench in street clothes because he's just kind of a cog in the wheel next to Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal at that point. And that mentality of that team was completely different. The mentality of this team and what he showcased, at least to me on Tuesday when they played the Heat, was a semblance of leadership, where he's like, you know what? I'm going to come out here and fight with these guys because these guys fight for me. And while, yes, it's not super efficient basketball, he's still putting up proper stats, right? He's still averaging 25.3 points per game. And here's the fun stat that not a lot of people talk about when it comes to Devin Booker this season. Sure, he's not hyper efficient. He's played 11 seasons in his career, correct? Where do you think he ranks relative to total field goal attempts right now?
That's interesting.
Okay, so his shot diet.
Well, I know off of believe it or not, I actually do research on the show. I know he's not shooting as many shots this year as he normally, especially from 3-point land.
Mm-hmm. But what about overall field goals? Where does it rank out of 11 seasons? Where does his 18.2 field goal attempts per night rank in his career?
Is it the lowest of his career?
It's the lowest of his career if you don't count his rookie season.
Okay, so it's the lowest of his career because
Yes.
he didn't play as much in his rookie season.
No.
It was injuries that went down that brought him in. Okay, that's interesting. So he's not shooting as much.
So he's not hyper efficient, but he's also not, and this is the point we were making with Jalen Green, right? When
That's
Jalen
interesting.
Green comes in, the sheer fact that he's not going to have the same shot diet that he had before is going to be a plus for this team, because there's deferment going on in the way that this team handles the ball, attacks on offense, and sets other guys who are more hyper efficient. The Royce O'Neals, the Grayson Allen, the Colin Gillespie, Jordan Goodwin at times, it sets them up for success. And that's one thing that we're seeing from Devin Booker. So yes, the efficiency numbers aren't there, but also he's taking 5.4 3-pointers per game, which happens to be the third lowest of his career, second lowest if you don't count his rookie year. And he has the second lowest overall shot attempts. So we don't need him to be the guy who, again, is carrying the team to victory. He needs to be an effective cog in the wheel. Now, it's a different conversation 3-4 years from now, when this team and the mentality might potentially have changed and Devin Booker might be relied on to give us a little bit more price for value paid. But again, the same concept applies. His overall salary is going to carry season to season over and be what? Like, I think was it 18% of the cap? I forget what it is. Something like that.
Regardless, it only goes up a little bit. That's why whenever people talk about the number, I'm like, okay, you have no idea what you're talking about. It's a percentage of the cap.
Yeah,
so I never
34%.
Yeah, I think before it was whatever. I think before it was like 33.5 or something like that.
Exactly.
But either way,
it goes up just a little bit every year, and then
it's always percentage of cap. It's never the actual money that people never. But that's interesting. How did I miss that? Because here's what's interesting. When you paint it that way, Devin Booker's most shots he made in a game was the season after. It was the record-breaking season long. This year, he's making one less shot a game from that. I've got to be honest with you. I'm a little stunned there. The one thing that I don't like is that he's kind of been turning over the ball a little bit more, but again, he's not turning it over like an aggressive amount like he was before. I guess, okay, then what about this? If we're not as concerned about Jalen Green, do we think there's a spot more tailored to Devin Booker's needs in this offense, or more tailored to Devin Booker, that they just haven't found it yet? Do you think at some point in the season they're going to find the right way to utilize Devin Booker?
That's a great question. I think yes, and that's why Jalen Green's important, because Jalen Green carries with himself his own gravity. And his gravity isn't a perimeter-based gravity. That's what Devin Booker's playing with right now. When you have Jalen Green on the ball, one, he can take guys off the dribble and touch the paint. And I think that's going to be hyper important for the Suns, is having another player who can touch the paint, because that creates defensive collapse. And in those situations, Devin Booker can now get off cleaner shots because defenses have to sag down to defend what Jalen Green brings. You know that you're going to have a Grayson Allen or a Royce O'Neal or Colin Gillespie, somebody out there as well. And if Jalen Green touches the paint, dishes out to them, now defenses are scrambled eggs, and Devin Booker is going to be the one who ultimately benefits from that, in my opinion. That's always been the thesis coming into the season. That was my thesis as to why this would work with Jalen Green, because Jalen Green excels at getting to the rim. Devin Booker excels in the mid-range, and they both really can't shoot the three, but you got players around them who can shoot the three. And it was a concern of mine coming into the season, and I'm not going to go back on what my initial preseason thoughts were. I was wondering where the scoring outside of Devin Booker was going to come. This team has showed us, under the tutelage of Jordan Ott, that they can be a team that scores and be efficient doing so outside of Devin Booker.
Let's move on to another thing, because you put out a short on YouTube that you don't even know that I watched about Suns trade options. And I thought you made a pretty good point about it. So let's talk about it.
Okay.
And let's do it next. Today's episode is brought to you by the lovely folks over at Game Time. During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building. The energy, the crowd, that first big run that gets everyone on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are going to cost. Where Game Time comes in. The app that gives the advantage back to the fans, making it incredibly easy to score tickets fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Browse the Game Time app. It is straightforward and intuitive. Finding tickets just takes just a few taps. Seeing the view from your seats before buying makes choosing tickets easy and confident. Prices includes fees up front, so the total is clear from the start. Features like zone deals help unlock great seats at even better value, whether it's the NBA game or another live event. Everything is right there in one place. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Down the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On NBA, LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, So you put out a YouTube shorts the other day. You don't even know I watched. I actually watched a decent amount of your YouTube shorts, and
It's
for the
something I
Suns
just
Jam
started
Session
doing.
podcast.
I
Yeah,
something I just
I
started
noticed
doing.
it. I
Between
noticed
that
it.
and like TikTok, I just want to. I have thoughts. I have ideas. Clearly, I'm like, I could put those out in a quick minute hitter. You know, I write articles about them.
That's what I do. It's one of the things I think I do. Yeah, but anyways, I do those as well. So I saw them, and you put out a trade thing. Now I've been very clear about where I stand on the Suns making a deal, and the reasoning why I've been so clear is because I think the Suns. I think there's two arguments to be made. One, the Suns should not make a trade, and they should stand pat for all the reasons that I actually don't disagree with. I don't think anyone is crazy, and I've never called anyone crazy for saying the Suns shouldn't make a deal. My observation has been, and this is what got me in trouble with Eddie Johnson, who, frustrating because I thought him and I were just starting to get tight, but I guess not. I tweeted out, and I don't take this back, and I don't care, that Jamari Bouye, but I also featured Colin Gillespie and all the other role players on this Suns team who are having breakout years. The Suns have Grayson Allen, Jalen Green, Devin Booker, Jamari Bouye, Jordan Goodwin, Colin Gillespie. They have legitimately 6 guards that would get minutes on most teams in the NBA. My super hot take was, he said facetiously, was trade one of those guys, that being Grayson Allen because he has the most value. And the Suns were already trying to shop him in the summertime. I don't know why we all act like that didn't happen, but it did. And try to get a better power forward. Now, that might not be the case, and that's totally fine. Maybe you move Nick Richards and you go get Gertrude Yabusele. And you add a second round pick to it. That would feed me enough to be like, okay, that's enough. Like, I'm not asking for anything crazy. But I think the Suns, if I'm growing less concerned with Jalen Green, and I think you just made a good point that there might be something there with Devin Booker that they figured out later on, that this team is an injury away, which, make no mistake about it, I'm not rooting for injuries. I don't want an injury to happen. I want to beat everyone at their best. But make no mistake about it. Injuries happen. And if it happened in the NBA playoffs to one of the top 3 teams, I think you could see the Suns playing in the Western Conference Finals. I think that's how well that they've been playing. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But I don't think it's impossible like I thought it was the beginning of the season. I'm at like 10% chance that could happen. Where are you on the Suns should swing a deal? Whether it's Richards and a couple of second-round picks for Yabusele, whether it's Grayson Allen for an Obi Toppin and a couple of second-round picks. Like, I'm aware the Suns have no picks that they can trade. They can't get Giannis. I can't believe we even have to say that for 1 second. They can't get Larry Markkinen. They can't get a Jaren Jackson. Like, they can't. That cannot happen. Even Bobby Portis feels a little unattainable. But the Obi Toppins, the Gertrude Yabuseles, like, I don't think that those are impossible. Where are you on the Suns should make a deal, yes or no?
So I have firmly planted my flag in the Suns should just write it out as is. Now, I get it. People look at Nick Richards and they're like, well, we could trade Nick Richards and get something back. And I'll start by reminding everyone he makes $5 million and he's kind of played himself out of the rotation. I don't see how that's a desirable asset for anybody. And Toronto potentially, because they want to ease their tax restrictions a little bit. But in the same breath, I look at it through this lens. You have Mark Williams, right? You have Oso Ighodaro. You got Kamlan Malawach, who hasn't been ready up to this point. And I'm going to write a whole piece on Bright Side of the Sun about, his production and taking a look at guys who are top 10 picks and play like no time. And what does that mean for them in their career? But if one of those guys gets injured, Mark Williams, guess what? Not a strong history of health. I would like to have a Nick Richards around to survive a 5 to 10 game stretch in which Mark Williams isn't there. So he has value here in Phoenix. He's depth. And I get where everyone's at. They're like, well, we need a power forward. It's our one deficiency. We need a bigger power forward. There's nothing on the market that the Suns can obtain. You said it yourself, right? Gershon Yabusele. Okay, well, here's Nick Richards and a second-round pick. Philly does, or New York doesn't want that. They don't. Yeah, that's what they need behind Mitchell Robinson and Karl Anthony Towns is Nick Richards. That doesn't solve any of their issues. The Suns don't have anything desirable enough to make a deal, in my opinion, and that's okay. Because this year, we go back to think about what this year is. This year is a transition year. Now, it's turning out to be a transformational year, but this is a transition year where we're supposed to go from the KD and Bradley Beal and Devin Booker Suns to whatever the next generation is. This is a year that's built on development, even though we might not see it in real time on the court, but you have 2 sophomores who are getting a lot of playing time and 3 rookies. One of them's getting a lot of playing time down in the G League. And then, Rasheer Fleming's starting to be inserted into the lineup a little bit. Malawach is going to take more time. He's a 19-year-old big. That's understandable. So we're in this unique scenario where as just as it was at the front end of the year, you don't go out and make splash deals or try to improve and tweak this roster until you truly know what this roster is. Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen are both going to have the same value at the end of the season. When the offseason comes and there's more opportunity to see where you're at, take stock of what this year ultimately was, and then make decisions moving forward. There's no reason to take Grayson Allen, who was a godsend this past week. He's been playing fantastic, especially with Devin Booker out/injured. Grayson Allen's been fantastic. That doesn't happen if he's gone. There's a chemistry on this team that I'm not in the camp of trying to disrupt at this current time. And again, I beat my drum consistently on the fact that there's no desirable asset out there enough that we can actually obtain. That if we want to obtain a better player, we don't have enough to give up, especially if players are on the market and other teams are aware. They have better assets to give. That's what
I think the thing is like with the Yabusele thing, which I think is the most attainable.
Yes.
I do think the Suns have a couple of second-round picks, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
I know they at least have one. Then I think they would swap because Nick Richards is done at the end of the year anyways. I think they would think about swapping those 2 things. It's not really much about Nick. It's about, second-round picks are currency in the NBA, and so that one is interesting to me. But regardless of that, I have 2 things that I want to say, but we have to wrap it up here. Oso Ighodaro has really transformed how I've thought about that over the last couple of weeks where, holy cow, maybe that's your 4. Maybe it is. I don't know if that's the case or not. He's been really sweet baby Oso Ighodaro. I don't know if it was just me getting to his head, sweet baby Oso, or if it was something else, probably the latter. And then here's the other thing. That's fine. How does Jordan Ott balance 6 guards? Because the Suns are already small and they're already getting destroyed. I think you might have been the first one. It was either you or I, the first one that was like, hey, this rebounding thing is a problem now. How do you balance having 6 guards that you literally have to play at least 5 of them? Maybe not Jamari Bouye, but you have to play Colin. You have to play Jordan. You have to play Grayson. And then Booker and Green are going to get a bunch of minutes. How do you balance that? How?
He's going to have to do it. And Jordan has proven, ultimately thus far early in his tenure, that he's a very strategic and schematically based coach. And when you have guards like Jordan Goodwin, that makes this a lot easier because that guy plays way above his size. He's one of the best offensive rebounders on the team. He's one of the best offensive rebounding guards on the team. He disrupts. So yeah, with Jalen Green coming back, my assumption is you're going to see a lot more Devin Booker at the 3. You're going to see that inflection and that inflection point that we're all going to hit where we're going to have issues against certain teams relative to size. And that's just who the Suns are going to be. And it's going to be an interesting experiment to watch once Jalen Green's back, because it's the most valuable question out there is what is Jalen Green and how does Jordan not balance what this team has been to what they can be with him in the lineup.
And here's my other thing to it. I won't put this out on social media because people will be like, and it does feel a little clicky. I still would, if someone gave me 2 first-round picks for Grayson Allen, I'd still do it. I would
this offseason. I wouldn't do it right now. I want to see. It's like playing poker, right? Now, we just need to check. Right now, we just need to see how this hand plays out, and because we went all in before. And guess what? We busted out. Now it's time to play patient and see what it is. I'm fully on board with seeing how this season finishes, what the Suns are, and then reevaluating what the value of Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen is based on what you think. And that's why, again, Jalen Green is so important to this, Ben, because if Jalen Green comes in here and he plays like a madman for the second half of the season and you go, hey, we got something real here, Devin Booker plus Jalen Green equals something, we need to build around that, you go down that route. But if he comes out and doesn't fit in, isn't efficient, has a rough time, then you have to start making other decisions as an organization, and you don't want to burn through assets that you've already given up at the trade deadline to get a couple first round picks. You just, again, you got to play the long game in this one, and you got to just, check, baby, check.
Yeah, this is his first year of that lucrative extension he got.
Yep.
So maybe it does become more desirable at the end of the season. If he was terrible, like I don't want to trade Jalen Green yet. Like whatever, right? But my thing is just like, I'm not trading Grayson Allen to trade Grayson Allen. That's not what I want to do. But the Suns have no picks, none. And I still want to continue to add to this young core. Or, I don't know, maybe someone does become available and the Suns want to have the ammunition to do that. So, like, again, like I'm not just trying to trade Grayson. The reasoning why I'm throwing it out there is because he's playing really well. Is because you could get something for him.
His value is high right now, and it's a good thought exercise to explore, but in the same breath.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. It would be hard. Here's the other thing that I would say. These are real humans. They are not robots. It would be really hard for the season they had to punish them.
Yes.
And so I think that's the best argument to be made of like, I think it's just unfair to those players to get rid of one of the best players on the team. And so maybe I agree with you guys. It's just hard because I try to think rationally. I think that's my superpower is I take myself out of it. And I'm like, yes, but in the longer realm, would you rather have two? I'm not trading him for one, but two? I don't know. That's real value there. But again,
we're living in the best case scenario. That's the best thing about this, Ben, is if this team was losing, right? If through 42 games, this team is 10-32, yes, we are absolutely having conversations about trading both of those guys and trying to get something back because it's like, yeah, picks are what's needed right now. We need to try to put ourselves in a position to be successful long-term. But we can do both right now because we're successful in the short term and we still have those assets available to us for long-term possibilities down the road. But right now, a decision doesn't need to be made. The trade deadline should come and go. If the Suns get rid of Nick Richards, I'm not going to be overly frustrated. If it's like him plus Nigel Hayes-Davis and they get somebody back, that's great. Again, I'm looking at it through the lens of I want that depth at the center position until Kalman Malawach is ready. And so I don't want to give up on that. But if you get somebody back who can also sit on the bench, because Gershon Yubusele isn't going to come in here and start for the Suns. He becomes a rotational guy, right?
Exactly. But he helps their size. And that's the only reason why I do it. And again, that's why it would satisfy me because I'm not trying to do anything crazy. But listen, what I will say is I was on a little bit of a hot streak and the Jalen Green thing might come crashing down because I told people Nick Richards, not buying that. And I got yelled at for that. And then I told people immediately, Nigel Hayes-Davis, that ain't it. And then I think I bullied Osa Wigandaro into being good. That's a joke, everyone. That's a joke. And then the Jalen Green thing, I'm starting to get a little concerned with some of those takes. But again, if he's great, then what do I care? I don't take the arrows my way.
I just want him to come in and play as a part of this team. And I think that he's chomping at the bit. And like I've said, with Devin Booker, we've seen it happen with him. And hopefully the same happens with Jalen Green, and they just kind of continue to just be absolute dogs. Because that's the one thing about this team, man. That's what makes this fun. Is I interact with other fan bases. I watch the opposing subreddit during games. It's a segment that we do on the Suns Jam Session podcast. And I see people hate Dillon Brooks and hate Grayson Allen, but in the same breath, they're always like, man, we could really use a Dillon Brooks or Grayson Allen on
Yes. Do me a favor, guys. Because it usually takes a second for me to get the show up after, because I don't go live after the show. I'm really not. I'm not trying to compete with Suns Jam Session podcast, and I'm not trying to compete with PHNX Sports with their post-game shows. Oh, this sounds bad. I would encourage you to go check out the Suns Jam Session podcast post-game show.
We have fun.
The analysis sucks, but the show itself is really funny.
It's really entertaining.
It's a really, and I'm joking, the analysis is really good too.
We're consistent and entertaining. The analysis
is very entertaining. I catch myself watching that. That's nothing against anyone else. I don't want anyone to think I'm trying to cast the arrows. The drops that they have, the things that they do, it is pretty funny. So if you're trying to go, if you're trying to check out something after the game, I would encourage you to check that out as well. Not trying to throw stones at anyone. I shouldn't have name dropped anyone, but regardless, it's pretty funny. And then go check out Locked On Suns because it's usually up by the time Suns Jam Such a podcast is over. But for my guy, John Voita at Darth Voita on social media, managing editor of Bright Side of the Sun, host of the Suns Jam Session podcast, he will literally do a show on his back from his bed if he has to. Follow us both on all social media platforms. You can find me at Ben Garcia Show, him at Darth Voita. For myself, Benjamin Garcia. For my guy, John Voita. It's been Locked On Phoenix Suns. I will talk to you guys tomorrow post game of Nets Suns. Last thing I'll say, I think Green plays tomorrow. Do you think Green plays tomorrow?
I do. I have a whole article ready to go on Brightside in case he does. So I just need that injury report here shortly and let it go.
I like this is the last thing. I think he plays tomorrow. My prediction has been he's going to play against the Nets because I don't want him playing against these physical teams. Let's have a soft landing.
Yeah,
With that being said,
Yep.
we'll talk to you guys post game tomorrow.